Hey guys, this is the final book battle. This is battle 10. After today's votes, you will definitely be going into Monday, March 2nd, to where you vote on all 10 of your final choices. So, let's begin. We do not have the winner from battle 9. We won't know until after we vote for both of these today. So, your choices for today's read is The World is Not a Rectangle. And book 2, Her Right Foot. So let's begin. The World is Not a Rectangle is a 4.0. In Iraq, rivers flow through green marshes. Wind swoops across the sand dunes and through ancient cities. Zaha Hadid sees the rivers and marshes and dunes and ruins with her father and imagines what cities looked like thousands of years ago. In Baghdad, where Zaha lives with her family, she dreams of designing her own cities. Zaha looks long and hard at patterns in her Persian carpet and sees how the shapes and colors flow into each other, like the dunes and rivers and marshes. Zaha has ideas. She designs clothes for herself. She arranges her furniture. She loves her mirror because the corners aren't square. There are no corners in the dunes or rivers or marshes. Zaha is a Muslim who attends a Catholic school and loves math and still thinks about the ancient ruins. She leaves home to learn more about cities and how to build them. She has ideas. In London, Zaha studies to be an architect. She fills notebooks with plans and designs. She makes paintings of the cities she sees in her mind. Zaha graduates with honors, rents a room in an old school building, and opens her own office, Studio 9. A few friends join her. They all work hard, night and day, making drawings and plans. We never slept. Zaha's designs don't look like other designs. Her buildings swoosh and zoom and flow and fly. The world is not a rectangle. No one wants to build her unusual designs. They say they can't be built, but Zaha knows they can. She enters competition after competition hoping to win, hoping someone will be brave enough to build them. Finally, one of Zaha's designs is chosen. The architect, judges think her plan is the best. But the city committee doesn't like it and won't build it. They hold another competition. Her design wins again, and still they refuse. Hadid means iron in Arabic, and Zaha is strong as iron. She keeps on working, one plan after another. I made a conscious decision not to stop. Zaha remembers the grasses in the marshes swaying and sees tall buildings dancing like grass. Zaha remembers the wind in the dunes and feels it blowing over and around and through the desert building. Zaha looks at shells and cradles her stadium like a cocoon. Inside the opera house, a singer is the pearl in the oyster shell. Zaha looks up at the stars and galaxies and sees swirling buildings. Zaha looks at waves and sees a bridge that moves with the water. Zaha looks at the Alps and builds a museum inside a mountain peak with windows to see the sky and the valleys. Zaha's ski jump reaches to the sky like the mountains. Zaha thinks of the jungle and ancient wood temples and builds wooden buildings to remember a faraway war. One by one, Zaha's designs become buildings all over the world. We do this so you can be in a simple place and feel good. Zaha is so busy now that every room in the old school building is filled. Over 400 architects work in these rooms, designing, planning, engineering, and making models of Zaha's visions. You should do what you like. Zaha designs a dollhouse and shoes and chairs. She designs a sculpture and an iceberg seat. Can't stop thinking. Sometimes when she is working, Zaha's early memories return. The beauty of the landscape where sand, water, reeds, birds, buildings, and people all somehow flow together. It has never left me. I still believe in the impossible. Then one night, the light in Zaha's window goes dark. She has left this world. But her architects keep their lights on, designing, planning, engineering, and making models of her visions, keeping her flame blazing bright, even though Zaha is gone. The end. The world is not a rectangle. A portrait of architect Zaha Hadid. Her right foot. This book is also at 4th grade level. It's a 4.5. You have likely heard of a place called France. If you've heard of France, you may have heard of the French. They are people who live in France. You may have also heard of something called the Statue of Liberty. Did you know that the Statue of Liberty comes from France? This is true. This is a factual book. One day, a Frenchman named Edouard de la Boule had an idea. The idea was to celebrate the 100 years of the United States of America. The idea was to celebrate the 100 years the United States of America had been around by giving them a giant sculpture. So he convinced another Frenchman, a Frenchman with an Italian last name, to design the sculpture. The artist's name was Frederic Auguste Bartholdi. Bartholdi designed the statue. He first made very small models of the sculpture and then larger ones, and finally one that is the one we know, which stands 305 feet above the water. This final full-size version was covered with a thin copper skin. The skin is about as thick as 2 pennies. That's not very thick. Here's a rendering of Bartholdi and his team. He had a team. He did not work alone. He did not like working alone, constructing the statue's hand. Notice that the hand is bigger than these men. Thus, they made the statue in many parts. These parts were assembled in New York City. No, wait. First, they were assembled in Paris. Did you know this? Ask your friends and even your teacher if they knew that before the Statue of Liberty was assembled in New York, she was first constructed in Paris. Your friends and teachers will be astounded. They will be impressed. They might think you are fibbing. But you're not fibbing. This really happened. The Statue of Liberty stood there, high above Paris, for almost a year in 1884. After they assembled the statue in Paris, they took it apart. But we just put it together, the workers said. That is absurd, they said. They said all this in French, the language of the French, a people who would appreciate this absurd. In 1885, after they took it apart, they put the parts in 214 crates and put these crates on a boat. The boat was called the Esra. The boat traveled over the Atlantic Ocean and made its way to a city called New York, which is a state also called New York. Which is in a state also called New York, excuse me. Hundreds of workers, perhaps 214 of them, took the pieces out of the 214 boxes, then began to rivet the pieces together. Assembling the statue took 17 months. And it all happened on what was then called Bedloe's Island. Bartholdi liked to see the sculpture rise above the harbor, and sometimes he watched the construction from the water. and sometimes he watched it from the land. Usually he was wearing a sturdy black hat, for he, like most European men of the time, favored sturdy black hats. You may have noticed by now that this picture of the Statue of Liberty in this book have her colored brown. You may have thought the illustrator of this book was not good at his job, because we all know the Statue of Liberty to be a certain greenish blue. But the Statue of Liberty was made of copper, and copper starts out brown. Then, very slowly, when left outside for long periods of time, copper will eventually oxidize. And when it does, it turns bluish green. So the Statue of Liberty that everyone in New York saw being constructed was actually brown. The Statue of Liberty, in fact, was brown for about 35 years. The statue turned green around 1920 and has been this color ever since. Perhaps you already knew this. And you may have known that the book the statue is carrying, the one in her left hand, features the date July 4th, 1776, on which the Declaration of Independence was signed. And you may know that the 7 spikes on her crown represent the 7 seas on earth, and the 7 continents, and the sun rays too. And you probably know that the torch she carries is a symbol of enlightenment, lighting the path to liberty and freedom. And you might have known that at one point Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb and the record player, once proposed to have a giant record player inside the Statue of Liberty. He did. He wanted the statue to be able to speak. And in the end, though this idea was considered a bit strange and was not pursued. And did you know that the interior of the statue was designed by another Frenchman by the name of Eiffel? That's right. The same Eiffel who a few years later would design the Eiffel Tower. And did you know that while the statue was first being constructed in Paris, a bunch of Parisians, mostly writers, they like to eat, actually dined in the area just below the statue's knee? This too is true. While the statue was rising, Berthelot set up a lunch 4 stories up to impress and enthrall these French writers, who, being difficult to impress and enthrall, were at least mildly amused. But there is one thing that you might not know, and this is the central point of this book, a point the author apologizes for taking so long to get to. The point is that even if you have seen a picture of the Statue of Liberty, or many pictures of the Statue of Liberty, or even hundreds of pictures of the Statue of Liberty, you probably have not seen pictures of her feet. And even if you have seen pictures of her feet, you probably have not seen pictures of the back of her feet, in particular her right foot. What did you notice when you see this picture? That's right. She's going somewhere. She is on the move. Let's pause here and collect ourselves and think about this. Let's discuss this. Let's think about and discuss the fact that this is the largest sculpture in all the land and the most iconic symbol of the United States of America. And let's talk about the fact that this statue has welcomed millions of visitors and immigrants to the USA. People talk about her unusual headwear. They talk about her gown, which seems a very heavy kind of garment, and would likely result in serious lower back issues. They talk about her beautiful torch and the severe look on her face. But no one talks about the fact that she is walking. The 150-foot woman is on the go. Every time we see the Statue of Liberty in pictures, or any time we imagine the Statue of Liberty, we see her standing still. Very still. Like, well, a statue. But she is moving. She weighs 450,000 pounds and wears a size 879 shoe. And she is moving. How can we all have missed this? Or even if we saw this and noticed this, how is it that we haven't seen and noticed a 450,000 pound human on her way somewhere and say, just another 150-foot woman walking off of a 150-foot pedestal? And most important, where is she going? Is she going to Soho to get a panini? Is she going to the West Village to look for vintage records? No. She is facing southwest. So she is facing New Jersey. Could she be going to Trenton? Wait, no, she is facing southeast. So she's not going to New Jersey, but she is going somewhere. But where? Why is she moving? There are certain things we know. We know that around her feet are chains. They are broken chains, implying that she has freed herself from bondage. We know that Bartholdi wanted us to know this. He wanted us to see the chains. People have talked about the chains. But a few talk about the foot that is so obviously in mid-stride, about the fact that her entire right leg is in mid-stride. What does this mean? What does this mean that we often forget about this right foot, this right leg? Here's an idea. Here's a theory. Here's a reminder. If the Statue of Liberty is a symbol of freedom, if the Statue of Liberty has welcomed millions of immigrants to the United States, then how can she stand still? Liberty and freedom from oppression are not things you get or grant by standing around like some kind of statue. No. These are things that require action, courage, and unwillingness to rest. The Statue of Liberty was not built to welcome just 1,886 immigrants from Italy on one certain Sunday in, say, 1886. No. She was built to welcome 3,000 immigrants from Poland the next day. The next day, 5,000 Norwegians. After that, 10,000 Glaswegians. Then, Cambodians, Estonians, Somalians, Nepalese, Syrians, Liberians. It never ends. It cannot end. After all, the Statue of Liberty is an immigrant too, and this is why she is moving. This is why she is striding. In welcoming the poor, the tired, the struggling to breathe free. She is not content to wait. She must meet them in the sea. The end. And that is her right foot. So I hope you enjoyed both of the books today from round 10. These are the final book battles. So after you vote on round 10, we will go into our final 10 to get our final votes. So look for a push out of the voting card on Monday, March 2nd, which is the day we are celebrating Read Across America Day. Cannot wait to celebrate with you guys Dr. Seuss's birthday. It is 60 years this year. So it's a big day, and we have lots of readers coming in for you guys. So I hope you're as excited as I am about reading and enjoying the day of reading. Thank you.